Hello from Intellipaat, guys. Today we're going to be discussing Cloudera's Spark and Hadoop Developer Exam, which has the exam code CCA 175. So, if you're looking to specialize in the field of big data, this is one of the certifications that is a must-have. So, today we're going to be going over that. But before we begin, be sure to hit that subscribe button and click on that bell notification icon so you don't miss out on any updates from us. So let's get into the agenda that we have for today. So firstly, we're going to be getting a little bit of intro to what Hadoop is, and then we'll get on to what Spark is. And then eventually, we're going to be discussing some criteria for this particular certification that we're discussing today. Then, as a big data developer, what are your roles and responsibilities? And eventually, the salary for a big data developer, the average salary for that, and then we'll get on to how to get started with your big data career path. So, what is Hadoop? As we can see in the definition, Apache Hadoop is a software library framework that enables distributed processing of large data sets across clusters of computer with the use of simple programming models. So, what does that mean? It basically means that data in real time and the real world is of extremely large quantities. And Apache Hadoop is basically a framework which allows us to use multiple devices at once to basically process this large amount of data in parallel. So that is what the task of Apache Hadoop is. This framework enables us to do it with simple programming logic. So basically, you can write a simple Java program without having to deal with the complexities of a distributed file system. And you can leave it up to Hadoop to basically execute it in parallel throughout all of the computers and all of the servers and all of the nodes that are present inside of your big data cluster. So this is one of the key advantages, one of the key selling points of Apache Hadoop. Distributed processing of large data. That means parallel processing of large data across multiple nodes. So the top industries in the top sectors that basically use Apache Hadoop are mentioned in the following graph that we have. So the software engineering, the computer software industry amounts for like 8,548 parts of the distribution. If we look at it via the 31% distribution that it has in this Apache Hadoop market. And then it is followed by the information technology and services, which is of 12%. So these are some of the largest segments that are using big data development technologies like Apache Hadoop. And then we have other use cases as well, like hospital and healthcare, academics, financial services, education management, obviously internet analysis, and then there's also the computer hardware market, then there's retail, and then telecommunications. So these are some of the organizations that you may be familiar with that use Apache Hadoop on a day-to-day basis. In fact, Apache Hadoop is one of the softwares that is very frequently, that is very well used in the organization that we know as Facebook. Facebook actually developed one of the conjunction softwares for Apache Hadoop, which we call as Apache Hive, for their own use cases as well. And as we can see, Adobe, Alibaba, AOL, Facebook, and a lot of other organizations as well. So it basically depends on what kind of data your organization is generating. So most big organizations today, like Amazon, like Facebook, like Google, they generate enormous amounts of data throughout the day. And in order to process this continuous and enormous amount of data, they need tools that can perform these big data analysis queries and processing jobs. So what is Spark? So now that we know what Hadoop is, we can get into Spark. So Spark is basically an alternative to Hadoop. if it is not being used in conjunction with Hadoop, because a lot of people have this misconception that in order to understand Spark, you need to understand Hadoop. That is not entirely the case, but you need to know the basic conceptualizations that are present in Apache Hadoop to get how Apache Spark is working. So that is something you need on a base level. Although you don't need to know Hadoop to an extreme detail to understand Apache Spark. So Apache Spark is another big data analytical tool, and it's basically an engine, which we like to call as an in-memory engine, as opposed to Hadoop, which stores a lot of the data that it is processing in the disk space of the nodes. Apache Spark, what it likes to do, it transfers the data that is to be processed or is being processed into the physical memory or the RAM, and it basically provides us with a faster analysis. It's about 100 times faster than Hadoop because of the fact that it transfers data into the RAM. So that is the primary use case of Spark. It uses the physical memory to perform faster calculations with almost zero latency. And one of the drawbacks of using Apache Spark is the requirement of large amounts of physical memory. So that is one of the things that we need to keep in consideration when we are using Apache Spark to be efficient and to be wise with how we use our memory. So 4 parts to Spark essentially that are used in day-to-day Spark operations. First is Spark SQL. So as an alternative to using RDBMS to analyze small amounts of data, you can basically use the same logic that you use in MySQL or Oracle databases, basically any other SQL query language. You can use that same logic and use it in conjunction with Apache Spark and achieve your big data queries in the exact same way as you would achieve it in RDBMS as well. So you don't need to learn anything particularly new. You can just use the same programming language logic or the same querying logic and implement it in Apache Spark and basically get the benefit of a big data analytics tool and still use the same functionalities that you would use in simple RDBMs. Then we have Spark streaming. So streaming basically means the continuous flow of data. That is what the definition of streaming is. And Spark is also one of the best tools for real-time big data analytics. So real-time would imply that the data is continuously being generated and being provided to our processing servers or our big data server. So Apache Spark is again one of the tools that we can use to efficiently analyze the data which is coming to us in real time. So that is one of the key advantages of Apache Spark. Then we have Spark mlib, which basically means the machine learning library that Spark has. So you can use this library to create your machine learning models out of the big data set that you have. So the Spark does it in a really fast and efficient way. As opposed to if you were doing it with simple Python libraries, then you may face a lot of difficulties to process enormous amounts of data, but Spark simplifies that task for you. And obviously for data visualization purposes of big data, you can use the GraphX technology that Spark has for that as well. So that would basically simplify your plotting and charting methods for your big data sets that you have. And then let's get on to the certification, which is the CCA 175 certification for Cloudera Spark and Hadoop developer. So this is intended for individuals, as we can see on the screen, who want to basically have some credentials for their skills in big data analytics. So big data analytical skills include the ingestion, transformation, and processing of data using Apache Spark and other Cloudera enterprise tools. Basically, Hadoop is needed because you need to know the base technology that you're going to be using, the base concepts of how a distributed big data Hadoop cluster or a distributed big data cluster works. You need to know Hadoop for that, and then use Spark to implement some problem statements in real time as well for that. So as we can see, the domains that are required, that are basically the skill requirements for you to pass this certification exam, are the capability of transforming, staging, and storing data inside of the HDFS. So you need to be completely understanding, completely well versed in the HDFS, which obviously comes under Hadoop because HDFS is the abbreviation for the Hadoop distributed file system. So you need to understand Hadoop for that and understand how the distributed file system works. And then ETL processing using the Spark API. So using the Spark APIs that you have at your disposal, you need to extract, transform, and load the data that you have. So data cleaning, data transformation, and eventually data loading with the use of the Spark API. And then using your brain, using the innovation that you have as a big data developer to analyze this particular data that you've loaded in a very efficient way. So depending on the use case that you have, depending on the problem statement that the organization has provided you, you need to be very well efficient, very well versed with how to analyze this data that you've extracted. You need to be able to create models with it. You need to be able to derive some insight from it, derive some information out of seemingly unstructured or random data. So you can use Spark SQL for that. So that's something you need to be very well versed with in order to pass this certification exam. And then obviously from the administrative point of view, you need to also know some command line options. Say if you want to change the amount of memory that you want to use for Spark, depending on how much memory you have on your cluster or on a particular node, you need to be able to manipulate that information, manipulate those configurations as well, in order to basically fine tune the performance of your cluster and fine tune the speed at which you are deriving the information that you need to derive. So, what are some of the roles and responsibilities of a big data developer? So, if we can just look at this role that we have over here. The big data developer will design and develop ways for data extraction, cleaning, and analysis using Hadoop, Spark, and other big data services. So, in conjunction with Hadoop or in conjunction with Spark, you may have to use other tools as well to basically derive the information that you need to derive depending on your organization's use case. So that is the job of a big data developer. So don't get a Hadoop and Spark developer confused with something else. It's basically another word for a big data developer because those are technologies that deal in big data. So yeah, uh, as a big data developer, your job would be to basically be able to clean the data that you're receiving on one end. It should be able to extract meaningful information out of that data to determine which columns are important or which particular section of the information that you've received is important for your use case. In order to do that, you need to be able to extract that data, load it into the memory or a disk, and then basically then after you've done that part, you can then get on to the analytics part of things. So now that you have meaningful data, you can basically perform the querying that you want to perform, or basically filter that data in order to give you the information that you need. So you might have to use Pig and Hive and all of these other services in conjunction with your Spark as well for that. So if we just look at an example for the job role of a Spark/Scala developer. So this is one of the examples that you have in big data development markets. So as we can see, there are some basic things that you need to know. Say for this particular organization, the database knowledge that you need to know is of Cassandra and MongoDB, but depending on the organization that you're choosing to participate in, you might have to know MySQL, you might have to know other databases as well, other database languages as well. But in this case, you need to know that. But I don't want you to focus on that. I want you to focus on the points that are highlighted. So good knowledge on Java, Scala, and Python could be an advantage because you can use Python in conjunction with Spark, which we call famously as PySpark. You can use that. So getting into a Spark career is easier for a person who is from a data science background or data analytics background in general, because usually the technologies used in data science and data analytics are R and Python. So APIs are available in Spark for R and Python. So you might have an advantage if you come from that field when you're getting into Spark. If you're coming from an RDBMS background or a database management background, it would be easy for you as well, as you can use Spark SQL in that way. Even if you're coming from a development background like Java, it is easy for you to get into Spark as well. So good knowledge of coding and problem solving. So basically the factor where your own brain comes in, where you have to find innovative ways in order to process data, that is where your coding and problem solving abilities come in. So if you're coming from a data science background, that is where your data science skills would come in. And if you're coming from a development background, that's where your coding skills will come in, right? And experience in Spark, Spark ML, and Spark streaming. So for this particular company's use case, they are obviously working on, I believe, artificial intelligence. So you need to be able to understand Spark ML for that. So basically, depending on the use case of the company and these job skills, these requirements may change, but any big data development role or any Spark developer role or any Hadoop developer role will often hold similar job responsibilities. So another point that we can see, which has not been highlighted, is good experience with Kafka and Scala. So Kafka is another tool that is not necessarily a big data tool, but it is used in conjunction with Spark, where you get data in real time. So all of these things, depending on the use case, basically. So let's get on to the salary that we have, right? So the salary for a big data developer at an average, so this could be for a Hadoop developer or for a Spark developer, because these days there's no such thing as just a Hadoop developer. In most cases you often have to be a Spark developer as well, because Spark is kind of the technology of the year, of the time right now. You just don't get to know Hadoop and get away with your big data career. You also need to know Spark. So all of those terms combined basically constitute for a big data developer. So as we can see, in the United States, at an annual level, on an average, we have $127,000. So if you're in the United States, and if you're basically at a point in your career in big data where you're a bit experienced, you can easily fetch around $127,000. That is an average. In India, if you're a bit experienced, you can fetch easily 11 lakhs per annum, which is a pretty good salary according to India. And in the UK, it's about 79,000 pounds. So that is pretty high from UK standards as well. So how do you get started? So now you know a little bit about everything. So you're obviously, if you're watching this video, you know something about Hadoop, or you know something about Spark, or you may be looking to understand why this certification is important. So all of those points have been discussed. Certification is basically important because it gives the employers that you have a criterion on which they are judging you. So basically, if you have a Cloudera certification, which is a very well-known certification, if I may add, if you have that certification, if you've passed that certification, that basically gives the company assurance that you are very well aware of the hands-ons, of the experience that is required for a big data developer role. So obviously, to get started with your career, in order to pass this certification, you can look at online resources. So some of the resources that we provide ourselves is a very good Intellipaat blogging community that we have. You can look at the Intellipaat blogs that we provide at our website, which cover a lot of these topics for you to really get into this, really understand the core concepts of how these technologies work. And then obviously there's a lot of sources, online resources available on YouTube. So if you simply search for these technologies on YouTube, you can get a lot of information out of that as well. at Intellipaat, at our YouTube channel, we also have a lot of videos that are based around Hadoop and Spark, so you can go check them out. A lot of tutorials for you to basically get into these technologies. But oftentimes, what will happen is while you're searching for these technologies on Google, basically you're not getting them in a structured format. You're not getting them in a way which is basically telling you that, yeah, this is how I'm supposed to study it, or this is the correct way to study it. You're just searching for scraps and bits, and that might slow down the process or might demotivate you from basically accomplishing the goal that you have set out to accomplish. So at Intellipaat, we actually offer a course in order to basically catered, handcrafted for the Cloudera certification. So if we can simply just go over to intellipaat.com, simply open up the website that we have. As we can see right over here, the course that I would like you to focus on, and you can type this in the search box as well when you log into intellipaat.com, is the Big Data Hadoop Developers Certification Training course. So this basically covers everything that you need to know. As you can see in the course description that we have, this is, by the way, one of our most popular courses as well, highest rated. And we can see we cover HDFS, MapReduce, Yarn, Hive, Pig, Uzi, and Flume. So Hadoop and technologies that work in conjunction with Hadoop, the basic base that you need for your big data career development. And then obviously Spark is included as well. So in order to prepare yourself for the Cloudera Spark and Hadoop Developer Certification exam, you can basically work on 4 real-life projects that is provided in this course, and basically start with your big data career. So one of the key features that we provide, some of the key features that we do provide include 30 hours instructor-led training. So that basically means that you'll be seated in live class batches. The instructors would take the classes live online, and you would be able to interact with the instructors that are teaching you. So if you have any doubt in the midst of a lesson, you can basically ask that doubt from the instructor, and the instructor would be happy to answer your doubts. And then according to your pace, you have 30 hours worth of self-paced videos. So if the instructor is not going according to your pace, if you just want to get some extra information, we also have a video bank for you related to this particular technology. So you can look over that and accumulate all of the doubts that you have, and then eventually ask the instructor all of those doubts. And then 60 hours worth of project work and exercises. So the projects that are allocated to this course would take you around 60 hours to complete. Certification and job assistance. So we may not be able to guarantee you a job, but we'll be certainly able to guarantee you a job opportunity based on whether you are able to complete the certification or not. Flexible schedule. So say if you miss one of the classes held by the instructor, that's not a point of worry. You can be seated in another live batch, and you will basically not miss out on your live lesson for that particular topic. Lifetime free upgrade. So what happens is that updates happen in technologies. So if there are any significant updates in the technology that we are referring to right now, and it changes a lot of the aspects of that technology, we basically upgrade our courses according to that update. So what happens is, once you've subscribed to the course and the technology updates, so if you want to take classes again, you can basically come back and check out our new updated content for that upgraded technology as well. And then eventually 24/7 lifetime support and access. So any doubts that you may have, you can basically contact Intellipaat support for that. So some of the things that we will learn, you can look at this in detail, but as we discussed before, HDFS, Yarn, Hive, Pig, and then eventually understanding how Spark framework works, and RDDs in Spark, job scheduling using Uzi, and then eventually preparing for the Cloudera Spark and Hadoop Developer Certification. So you can take this certification, you can basically take this training course if you are coming from software development background, analytical background, business intelligence, ETL background, or data warehousing background as well. And other than that, if you're simply from a big data Hadoop developer background, you can enroll for the course as well. Prerequisite for this course, nothing at all. Any prerequisites that are required from a language standpoint are already provided with this course free of cost. So as we can see, free Java or sold course is provided with this particular course. So Java is provided free of cost. So if you're not coming from a Java background, you can basically learn Java for free before you actually get into the Hadoop developer training program. So yeah. So you can look at the course content in detail at the bottom of the web page. You can look at that, and you can also look at what projects you'll be able to do in this particular project. So yeah. So especially for our YouTube audiences watching us here today, you can use the coupon code YouTube 30 to basically get a flat 30% discount on not just our Hadoop and Spark developer course. You can get it for get the flat 30% discount for any course that we actually offer on our website. So simply use the coupon code YouTube 30 for that. And with that out of the way, we are at the end of the session. So some of the contact details that you need to contact the Intellipaat sales team in order to resolve your queries regarding this course or any other course that we may provide. You can contact the following numbers for India or the US, and you can also contact us via email using sales@intellipaat.com. And obviously, you can chat with our course advisors that will guide you as to which course is ideal for you or which course you should actually take. You can chat with our course advisors as well using the following contact details. So that is it from our session here today, guys. Hope you have a wonderful day ahead of you. So that is it from Intellipaat. Leave these details on the screen for a while, and goodbye.